Hello and welcome to another video. So we've covered a few Haven decks this expansion, and we haven't covered Elana yet, so I thought we'd get into that and give it a go. Honestly, I've played 10 games with this, won 3, and as you're going to see, they aren't always the best games. They're pretty damn shocking with this deck. But I gave it a fair go. I wanted to make a video on it, so here it is. Let's get right into it. So the first matchup I actually had was against Forest, and it was probably honestly the best representation of the deck that I had. Pretty much every other matchup was pretty damn shocking. Some were reasonably close, but not close enough for me to get a victory, unfortunately. You know, getting stomped out by Haven and Rune can be quite difficult if you're going up against some of those matches, especially once they kind of remove your Elena's prayer. It's not much fun from that, but, I mean, we give it a solid go with this deck, and that's really what I want to do. So Water Fairy being the initial drop, not too bad. Unica actually isn't a bad card to play right off the back of that. Especially since, you know, this silly injustice getting absorbed by it, not the worst situation. I mean, just having a 1-1 on board is going to let me play the Elena's Prayer. So that is definitely not the worst situation to be in. Then the Pixie Mischief. Again, not a problem. It's going to allow me to set up the White Fang Temple very comfortably. And my opponent didn't really do a lot. I mean, throwing a few fairies down, not really going to hurt me when I can easily Priest of the Cudgel this. It's really a non-issue at this point. And really not a big issue at all. Elfchild May, not a bad card, honestly. Definitely a nice one, especially with this Airbound Barrage. They're actually going to do a wonderful job of removing this. Although it has been costing them their, like, kind of proc cards for things like Roach, which usually as a first player you don't want to risk too much. And I'm going to have a pretty good line of play going with Unica and Unicorn Knight. Even Black Inscription here, which will save me the Evo point so I can hopefully use it on Tenko. With the little buff is really nice. It's definitely going to force them to have to remove the 3-3, which is exactly what I want. And these Fairy Whispers aren't going to do much for them. At least not yet. Now it's just a matter of how do I want to play my next turn. Do I just want to wipe with Themis, or do I want to leave this up? And I think leaving this up is not a bad option, considering I can actually buff these quite heavily while removing stuff. Since Tenko is going to allow me the double heal. The only downside is that I am going to proc my amulet, which, I mean, isn't going to be quite as nice because I'm going to miss out on a third buff, but when you got a 4-4, 8-8, and 6-6 against a Forest player with max health, definitely not an easy time for them, especially after they've already used 2 of their removals, but they're going to come in close right now. Wow. Seeing that makes me think this is definitely a path to Purgatory Forest. I would not be surprised if that's what they go with. The Fairy play, going for the Suicide, isn't really great. It's not going to do for a lot for them on their own, but being able to remove my Tenko, I guess it makes sense. It's definitely going to slow me down. So since I can't go for the, obviously, 6-drop play there, I've pretty much just got to go for a Temple and go face. Why not? Damage is damage. So there's a Justice and a Purgatory. An Altered Fate. Unfortunately, since they did have 0 play points, they couldn't quite get there, which did, of course, lead to their demise, but very close. If they actually had have got to that Purgatory and killed me, I would have been in some trouble. Like, serious. Very hard to counter Purgatory. For the next couple of games, they are Shadow, and they're very kind of lackluster, unfortunately. I wish that I could have got some better matchups. I might have to try some different variants of Elana to get them to work. Maybe some hybrid Elanas, if I want to take full advantage of it. Personally, I just have never found much success with Elana in the last probably couple of metas. It's definitely been better to focus on a pure Tenko build most of the time, or just a pure Stormhaven build over Elana pure. Elana Tenko hybrids are still quite decent. I don't mind running those quite as much, but as just a straight up deck, I always feel like it's very lackluster and very hard to get around. So Black Inscription, not too bad. Could have also went with the Seraphic Blade, but I wanted to hold on to that in case I have to face a problem amulet. So I thought, why not just hold on? Marlone, Light of Balance, would be a much better card if it healed you and not your opponent, but that would probably be too busted then. People would complain, oh, busted, but it's just a little disappointing, because you can't really force your opponent to play Mark of Balance too easily, which of course means you can't take advantage of your heals too quickly. The only real bonus is Marlone's Evolve. When it attacks, it gives you extra points. That's always quite nice, even if I didn't use it in this match. I actually did find a couple of uses for it in the games that I lost. And unfortunately, Lurching Corpse into Soul Conversion. Great. And it hits the Evolve. Always the worst option to hit. But as you can see here, this doesn't really give them much. They're sacrificing the skeleton basically at this point. And ended up conceding because they obviously thought, hey, I'm not going to be able to do this. And now for the last matchup, it is, of course, another Shadow deck. I actually found if I had to go up against any deck, Shadow tended to be the more favourable one, as they don't tend to do anything too crazy in the early game. It's only really low drops, which can be taken care of with a lot of the removal this deck provides, especially the banishments can really cripple a lot of the Shadow decks that are around. This match actually wasn't too bad, honestly. It definitely wasn't as bad as that last one against Shadow. This one did feel a little more normal. It didn't feel like it was too early of a concede for me. That last one, I'm sure they probably could have made a small recovery, but they didn't.
I'll try not to obliterate you completely.
White Fang Temple, not too bad. I really couldn't find a way around this yet. Bone Chimera, again, not really a problem. Long term, those low drops, really have no issue with. All I can really do now is a draw. Unfortunately, I wanted another White Fang Temple. Didn't happen. But getting the extra draw power, not too bad. I mean, if I'm going to play them, may as well play them now. It's going to take a while for them to go off. Turn 5, we have a potential for the Tenko play. That one I'm actually kind of looking forward to. And of course I end up with Seraphic Blade instead, and my White Fang Temple play, which honestly wasn't the worst possible option. It's going to fully heal us and keep us healing for the next couple of turns. We do also continue to have the Tenko and the potential Aether turn next turn, which isn't going to be any good because we need a free board slot for Aether to actually be useful. So if I don't get anything else, I probably would have went for the Tenko, but unfortunately they did swarm the board, so Decree was actually my best option. And getting a 6-6 on board is actually pretty devastating against Shadow at this point in the match. Especially if they don't have a Hound to play off this. So again, not bad from our opponent, honestly. That was a pretty nice way to do it. And another Nicola. I mean, they had that one return, so it's not too bad. I did end up getting a Priest of the Cudgel though, which is going to go very nicely with this Elena's Prayer to max out my play points and remove their Nicola, so I don't need to worry about that becoming a problem later on. Usually I save as much banishment as I can for those, typically, excluding of course the start of some matches. And we're looking at a reasonably solid board right now with this 5-5. It's going to absorb this Lady Grey and these skeletons pretty easily. And healing doesn't really make a difference for them right now. The only unfortunate part is I can't go for an Aether Tenko play next turn. I would have actually much preferred that I could have. So it's really going to probably be a Blackened Scripture into the Aether play. At least this is going to give me a nice ward. And since they are down to a single card in hand, even with a really good Ektar, it wasn't going to help them. So again, this was a bit more of a solid match at least, so I was quite happy with how this one turned out, but I only had those 3 out of every game. Kind of sucked. So I definitely can't recommend this deck to people to give a go or try. I mean, if you've got the cards and can do a bit better, I guess give it a go, but honestly, there are just much better decks. The Blood deck I covered that was extremely cheap, much better than this overall, was also much more enjoyable to play, which is always a nice thing to have, but I wanted to give it a go. Someone mentioned they preferred Elana over Tenko. I wanted to give Elana a fair shot. Again, I could probably do a little bit better variant, probably running something more Aegis orientated that makes it so it's very hard for a big thing to finish it, like Path to Purgatory. I actually lost 3 Path to Purgatory decks. Absolutely shocking. Anyway, hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, hit the like button and subscribe for more content. You'll find the deck list in the description below, even though I don't recommend it. Until next time, see ya.